Welcome to Chapter 9, Managing Human Resources. Listed above are the 9 main topics we're going to cover in this chapter. You're probably very familiar with the job title, Human Resource Manager. This is someone who's directly involved in the process of hiring, developing, motivating, and evaluating employees to achieve company goals. Shown here is the human resource management process, and I'll go into detail on each of these in the slides that follow. The process starts with determining the strategies and objectives of the organization, then the job analysis and design, human resource planning and forecasting, employee recruitment, followed by employee selection. Then there's job training and development, performance planning and evaluation, followed by compensation and benefits for the employee, and finally organizational career management. After you're clear on what the company's strategies and objectives are for the next year or the next 5 years, then you can start with the job analysis and design. A job analysis is to figure out the tasks required to do a job well. This includes the job description, which is job responsibilities that will be expected of the person, and job specifications, which include the skills, knowledge, and abilities a person has to have to do the job. Human resource planning and forecasting includes demand forecast. This means trying to figure out the number of employees needed by some future time. And then there's supply forecast, which is internal. This includes estimating the number of current employees who will be available to fill various jobs at some time in the future. This may seem like a fairly simple process, but it can be very tricky, especially depending on the industry that you're working in. For example, you can imagine after September 11, it was difficult for a lot of industries within tourism to try and figure out how many employees they were going to need in the future. Would they need as many as they had in previous years, or would there be a slowdown within the travel industry? If you can remember back to the 90s, there was a labor shortage where the tables were turned on employers. They were doing pretty much anything they could to get employees with the skills that they needed. This was especially true in high tech and in the communications arena. But in 2001, the tables turned again, and unemployment was the highest that it has been in 20 years, and employers hold the cards again. After human resource planning and forecasting is employee recruitment. Recruitment means that you're trying to find someone who is qualified for the job that you're posting. And a lot of employers try and find very creative ways to find the best applicants that are out there. You've probably seen lots of companies visit job fairs to try and bring in new applicants. A lot of employers post job openings on websites, or perhaps they have their own website to try and attract new employees. What's very common is for employers to post jobs in the newspaper and also to announce them on radio stations. There are other numerous ways that employers try and attract employees that you're probably thinking of, posting jobs with state organizations that help with employment, magazines, periodicals that are specific to certain industries, like computer magazines might list job openings with different organizations. Here are some ratings made by Fortune magazine regarding employee talent. Basically, some of the most impressive employees can be found at Microsoft, Cisco Systems, and Coca-Cola. Some of the least admired employee talent can be found at MedPartners, Shoney's, and Trump Hotels and Casinos. Selection refers to the process of trying to figure out which people who have applied for the job have the qualifications needed to do the job well. The steps of the selection process include the initial screening. A lot of employers have an initial screening set up that includes The person, when they apply for the job, they have to list 3 references, submit a resume, submit a cover letter, and if they omit one of these things, then they can be screened out of the initial process of hiring. The employment testing could be anything from a physical test to an aptitude test to an on-site skills test to see if a person can actually operate certain types of machinery. Then there's the interview that probably everyone is familiar with, where you're either being interviewed with one person or a panel of people. Then there's the background and reference check, where phone calls are made, paperwork is verified to ensure that the person has the educational background that they claim they do, that they have the experience that they say they do. Sometimes there's a physical examination. If there's stringent physical requirements needed to do a job, sometimes a physical exam is required. Drug testing can be a part of this. And then there's the final decision to hire, picking the right person. Training and development includes all the educational activities that an employee engages in to help them learn the skills they need to do their job well and increase their job performance. There's on-the-job training, which is job rotation. It can include an apprenticeship or mentoring. And then there's off-the-job training. This is when a person would be sent to a classroom to learn new material, new skills. Off-site training and vestibule training, where there's actually a smaller work simulation set up to help an employee learn how to do a job without them actually risking screwing an actual job up or messing up real machinery. Forecasting International predicts that the need for lifelong learning will characterize business in the future. More and more you see businesses turning to in-house training programs, online training programs, or contracting with local colleges and universities to continue educational programs for their employees. The implications for businesses is that there's a need for higher training budgets. In general, when companies make cuts, education is usually the first to go, but businesses are figuring out that if they want to make money, they have to spend money, and that usually means spending money on training their employees. It also means that there's a need for constant retraining due to turnover and also technology requirements. More and more people need training, just-in-time training to learn new technology. And also training has been found to be a real motivational and retention tool. When businesses, studies show that businesses that use education and training as incentives for their employees are able to keep their workers motivated, and they're also able to keep them on much longer.